Oh, you'd be surprised. Some of them, they're 500.
All right,
Oh my gosh.
let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have everybody here. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Our first action item, to approve the level of the reopening of the school. I think
Do we need it? Did Kristen have anything or is that, did you have
it's
anything?
just a number, right? So it was
Okay.
1.7 last week, I think it was 2.4 today, so we're
Still in the yellow.
still in what we're calling yellow, so we look for a motion to,
So I make a motion that we start school September 8th in the yellow category.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? None seen? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next action item is our COVID-19 reopening plan amendment. We had a few highlights. Kristen, you want to talk to anything before we?
Just give you a quick overview. So we just went back and tried to insert language into the reopening plan that supported what you guys wanted to see in terms of masks, and that's that larger paragraph on the second page. And then we also specified on the hotspots that we were planning to offer that those would only be available to students that were designated either migrant or homeless. We get dedicated funds specifically for those populations. We were hopeful that we would have some more free resources available to us like we did in the spring, but so far we have not seen that on hotspots. So we are limited as to what we can provide. So those were the two categories we added there. And then on the PPE under green, we just added that we would not be routinely providing it. Just added the word routinely since we did talk about wanting to provide masks for students that were wishing to wear one but didn't have the resources to provide one.
Anybody else have any comments or discussion points on the opening plan? I think we've hit it several times. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised operating plan.
I'll make a motion to approve action item B, the COVID-19 reopening plan amendment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Our next action item, pay to play fees and athletic transportation. I guess probably the best place to start was with discussion, since we can.
I called Cheryl earlier today with a couple questions, and one of my questions was, so the levy money is we only get it for 2 years. And we haven't determined yet what that levy money is going to be spent on. We'll need to do that before probably our September board meeting. So I'm hesitant to just say, yeah, we're going to spend X amount on athletics for two reasons. Number one is when we voted last time on what those pay to participate fees were going to be, at the $100 and $200 rate, the district already had to, we pulled the AD salary back out. So the district's already covering the athletic director's salary, but we were also $33,000 in the hole that we had to cover somewhere. Whether that came out of our rainy day money or somewhere else, we were still looking of how to fund that. So more than likely, unless it's come out somewhere else, that's already coming out of the levy. So I'm hesitant in our discussion today to just automatically sign over another chunk of money when we don't know what our other needs are. I just read on the news, Sherry Ybarra, they're trying to get the state to increase or approve raises for our staff next year and cover insurance, but it still won't make up the 5% cut that they cut. So like leadership stipends and a lot of that stuff that was cut out. We lost a lot of educational assistants. We lost our dean of students. There were a lot of counselors and an SRO officer. And I feel like we need to keep that in mind, those educational pieces in mind during our discussion, because education, our mission statement is every child learning every day. And unfortunately, it doesn't say every child gets to play sports every day. So I just want to keep that in the back of our mind, that that education piece needs to be there. And so when I look at these numbers, just to be 100% honest, I'm going to be thinking, how many educational assistants is that going to pay for? You know, what's the burden on salaries versus knowing we have kids that haven't been in school for 6 months, they're behind, we don't have the staffing adequately to help. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I'm looking at these numbers tonight.
So the short 33,000, what was that supposed to be for? Sorry, I wasn't officially in.
So when you guys determined that you were going with the rates that you did, that 33,000 was what was still outstanding, that was not in the budget and was not going to be covered by pay to participate. So we had agreed that that would have to come out of fund balance.
Okay,
Did you look at the chart that was attached?
sorry, I just saw it not too long ago.
Of the flat fee columns that were passed, the 200 flat fee and the 100 flat fee?
So my opinion is that we've struggled, and the community has finally gotten behind giving us this additional money to help support the schools. And I don't know where it goes yet, but I'm very hesitant to get all excited and throw it all up in the air and start spending. I mean, our budgets are already cut. We've gotten this endowment from the community. And I think we just need to be really cognizant of the sacrifices of a lot of the people in the community to support their kids' education. And that's really my only opinion on it, because I don't have enough understanding and background on other things. I think sports are important. I think it helps to solidify the community. We've got great teams and great coaches. It brings the community together. Unfortunately, we're struggling to bring the community together because nobody can show up to the games. So I'm kind of divided on the subject, but I'm not also not super excited to just rush and throw money out.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm more comfortable at the high school level where we sit right now. We're fairly competitive in the market, the Valley, on pay for play where we're at there. Transportation, it seems like the teams are making some adjustments. The other schools don't provide transportation. My biggest pain point is at the middle school, because I think that's a time in life when you're experimenting and games are earlier. Kids play sports only because their best friend's playing it and they never played it before. And I think so the pay for play and the transportation at the middle school are my hottest buttons. I think the high school we could look at later as we dig into the budget further. But for me, the middle school expense is the highest because those kids can't drive. Their games are earlier in the day when their parents are working. And $100 for a sport to just try because your best friend Johnny's playing it probably says no to a few parents towards cross-country, wrestling, football. You know, I think, I get it, by the time you're in high school, there's so many club sports, we spend a lot, but for me, if we could do anything for the middle school would be my pain relief.
I agree with Kurt
I agree,
on that. Absolutely.
especially because the away games, you can't go in and watch. So you're gonna drive your kid, and we're gonna clear the mountain home. You're gonna drive your kids there, and maybe, you know, some kids can't get there because parents can't get off work.
No,
So as part of this deal too, are we having a discussion on this where we determine 2 people per player that can come watch the games and stuff like that? Or is that something separate?
it's
I
not,
have a real,
That would be
it's not on
separate.
the agenda, so technically it's separate, but you could probably discuss it during this moment, because you're talking about transportation and athletic fees, but we couldn't take
Yeah.
action on it.
okay. Well, I firmly believe we need to, if we can't take action on it, we need to put it on an agenda for the very next meeting or whatever, to discuss it in detail. I totally disagree with this 2 persons per family member. And there's been, obviously, we're all getting emails left, right, all day long. And we can go to Costco, we can go to Walmart, we can go all these different places, but yet you're gonna limit to 2 persons for your kid to watch sports, especially outside sports. I can get it if you're volleyball, basketball, and you have to do some limiting and segregation, yada, 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 social distancing, but we're all outside. I totally disagree 100% with the limiting to you to 2 people per player. I think it's ludicrous.
And you're, to confirm, you're discussing that because we're talking about pay for play, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but I mean, it goes along that, so.
Yeah, no, I'm
but
just
if,
I'm keeping us in the bounds here of our discussion, so.
yes,
Um,
we're just discussing it as far as that goes, so, yeah.
I agree with you, Derek. I would like to see families be able to go, but
So I think we have Andy Akeney here, and he can talk to us a little bit about our pay for play, our transportation, his thoughts. I know when we're looking at gatherings in Canyon County, I think it's over 50 people. I think that's probably, is that the number? I don't know where we're at with the county regulations. So as we discuss this further and take action, we've got to see how we're going to work with Southwest District Health on that type of, because the key is we have limited liability, but we have to make sure we're playing by the general rules. We're not getting ourselves in trouble. So the legislature passed a limited liability, but we have to make sure that we're taking data and using data to make our decisions. And so I think families might be a way, but it's going to be really hard to police, but we could look at that. But
Speaking of data, I never saw the results of those surveys. Did they come through on our
I
email?
couldn't see them either.
Or do you have
I
those?
have them for you, but yes, they should have come through on your email.
I never saw them.
Hmm.
Could you share them with us?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the high school, 52.4% selected that they would like to see a combination of transportation and reduced fees. 26.5% were reduced fees. 19.2% was bringing back transportation. On the middle school in that same order, 52.1% combination. 22% reduced fees, 23.4% transportation.
How many people total took that survey?
I have to go pull it up. Be right back.
I'm just curious about how many athletes we have. What?
Andy, what are your thoughts where we're at here on
Football
this?
players, it's
You got your finger on the pulse.
As it comes to, I don't know, as it comes to pay to play, some people have asked me if the levy, passed and what might be the needs of the high school, what might be the needs of the middle school. My initial thoughts all along have been for the middle school, provide transportation. I think that really became clear today when I realized the Inter-Valley League, so that's the middle school league they're in, so different than the SIC, was not allowing any visiting fans into games. Just the home team only could have fans come in. Well, from that perspective, transportation becomes even that much more important, getting kids to and from a game, because I don't know, at that point with my son would say, yeah, just go, get on the bus, I'll pick you up when you come back if I can't go, that's the rule, right? I'm not gonna argue, that's what they decided. But I'm not gonna drive to Mountain Home to sit in a parking lot. That's not happening, from that perspective. So I think it's really important for middle school, for transportation, and you brought this up earlier, Kirk. I think because of when the games start at that age, it's difficult for a lot of parents to potentially get off of work or try to coordinate carpool to get kids to games. And if that's the case, my fear is, and fear of other coaches at the high school, is that we potentially could lose kids in certain sports because their parents are gonna say, sorry, you can't play, I can't get you to the game. That's a big concern, just because of the early start time. At the high school level, my initial, and I just looked at the results, my initial thought all along is because it's one of the things that we've been saying since I was in here last time we sort of looked through all the numbers, was we passed the levy, well, let's do what we can to lower the pay to play amount at the high school. And our discussions with coaches have been all along, hopefully that takes place. So let's figure out right now how we can coordinate transportation. Like let's do this. Let's look at the numbers. How can we make this affordable? So for volleyball and soccer and cross country, and there's some different things you can look at with, that we can get into. I mean, they've all basically decided to, and those are all shortened seasons right now, based on where we're at, that they're going to provide a bus to the game, drop off, bus comes back, parents, kids, you're responsible for figuring out a way for your kids to get home. By doing that, that does not cost our teams very much at all. It all depends on where you're going. I mean, so if we're taking volleyball to Caldwell, dropping them off at Caldwell, and the bus is coming right back, that might be $50, if that, for volleyball. And so that's not a lot at all. But so that's what our thoughts all along were, being able to lower the pay to play. Football is going to provide buses to and from events. They've already, fundraised for it because there's more kids. And more kids historically in football have always ridden the bus home than in other sports. There's times in volleyball and soccer, if that bus stays there the whole night, there's, you have 40 kids going on the bus, 5 are riding back on it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've just spent another $150 to make, for that. So we figured if we got it out there early enough for those other teams, all those kids could figure out a way to get home. Because you just end up, sometimes I've seen the bus go home with 2 kids on it from an away game, So that's not necessarily the best use of money either. And like I said, football will provide it both ways, just because there's more kids ride home just because of the equipment, et cetera. So lowering the pay to play would, in my thought process, all along as the coaches as well, we thought it would be a huge deal for the high school kids.
So where are we at with bus contracts? Like if we say, sure, we're going to pay busing, do they have the capacity and the drivers to be able to bus our sports teams? Or is that going to be an issue?
It's always been extra.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
we're
not a
just very
contract, that's just a as needed service. I
So-
suppose they could tell us no if they didn't have the staffing.
The drivers or
but
something.
Most of the drivers want the extra time.
And we've already sent them they already have our, as of right now, transportation request for the season,
For high school and middle school, or just high school?
just high school.
So my question is, because I know the boys or middle school has a football game starting tomorrow. if we approved busing for middle school today, it probably wouldn't take effect until next week, or what would we?
You
Because they're
could,
getting
I mean,
away.
if some,
Mhm,
I
so
could
you-
probably call the person at the bus company when this meeting's over to coordinate something like that. And the way they usually bill it, just, I mean, before they've always billed the district for that, you know, but at times they have sent me the bill as well, if it was something like a practice, right, where wasn't a game, we were just gonna pay for it. They'll just send me the invoice, which is what I would expect them to do right now. You know, since we're saying we're gonna handle it. Yeah, so after whatever first volleyball game, or they might wait till the end of the season and just send us a bill for each sport at that point, so we just have to pay once.
So right now, from these numbers that Cheryl sent us, the transportation for middle school is 15,724, and that's an estimated off of probably a full season, right, based on last year. So it's gonna be less than that,
Yeah.
just because everyone's got shortened seasons, assuming we play every game in our shortened season. So, I mean, that would be kind of a generous estimate.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at 10 grand for that number, I would think, given a third less of the season for middle school.
Well, yeah, because NAMP is doing their own thing and CUNY is doing their own thing. It's not a very big league,
And I don't know the nuances of all of it, but I mean,
only because I have a kid in it, so that's
I mean, it's
why.
like looking at our transportation for this year, right? If the district was gonna pay the high school's athletic transportation, well, you know, all of a sudden we've gone from 8 away soccer games to 3 or 4. You
Wow,
know, and volleyball's in the same boat, so
Yeah.
there will be a significant, I mean, there will be a cut. Who knows what even basketball's gonna look like yet?
yeah,
I would be in favor of entertaining an idea to pay transportation for middle school tonight, but possibly tabling the exact numbers for what we have for play for high school and middle school until we have a budget workshop, which hopefully before our next board meeting, so we can get a better feel for what the rest of that levy money looks like and where we need to spend it. Because I think that we need to look at all of our needs, not just sports, and look at them all at the same time. And right now, we're just having this one little section, and I have a hard time committing what that money's going to until I see the rest of the needs of the district. But I feel like the transportation to the middle school is minimal and definitely needed.
yes, they've begun, so yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, it seems like we have a plan for the high school. I think middle school is our greatest need, transportation-wise. I'd love to see the middle school fee reduced or to zero, maybe a reduction in the high school, but I kind of agree that it can't be the first thing we bring back, we pass a levy when we haven't replaced the EAs and we haven't have another officer possibly in our buildings, counselors. I mean,
What are our enrollment numbers at?
They are down slightly in all the buildings except for the high school. The high school is up, but this has been an odd year.
Yes, oh, that's why I'm asking.
So-
Well, tonight till midnight, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not so sure that we may not be surprised on Tuesday with what we actually have.
Okay,
And just know the high school, we are fully prepared in discussing it to reimburse individuals who have already paid the full amount. I mean, that is already part of our plan if needed with the paid plan.
And I think, remind me, when did you say their next payment is due? Is it prior to
September
the,
18th.
so it's right after your board meeting, so it's still be workable.
So yeah, so we could work that for the meeting. We could have a budget workshop between now and the 14th, between now and the 11th.
Well, then I would like to go ahead and just make an official motion that we approve transportation for the middle school sports for this year, and that we table the discussion for the fees to our workshop and next board meeting, our budget workshop and the next board meeting, so that we can look at those numbers in whole before we make a determination on what they should be.
Is Is there a second?
I will second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I will motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Those in favor?
I.
Aye.
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 Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Eric.